Hello, everyone. I am Trailblazing Tim, and we are looking at the California Gold Rush to find out what lessons can we learn from history. The whole point of the rush for gold was that there was not enough gold in the world at the time, and rare things are valuable. And money can connect communities because it allows easy exchange. To give a little thing of metal or paper that I can hold in my hand and you give me something in return makes exchanges very easy. So today we're going to look straight at the source of currency in the gold rush. Look at how does money work now? How did it work then? Why was there so little money in the gold rush times? And how did money work out in the remote region of California? First off, in the United States, the government makes money. The coins that we make are made from a mixture of metals, and we have small value coins just worth a penny or a nickel and that sort. All of these coins are made by the mint, and that is part of the U.S. Treasury. And then the Federal Reserve Bank will distribute those to your local banks. Any gold or silver coins that we see today are generally used as investments. They're not used for transactions to buy groceries or any other item. Paper or cloth money is made of cloth, so it can be washed without being destroyed. And like coins, it is printed by the Treasury and distributed by the Federal Reserve to local banks. And it is not backed by any real thing of value since 1971. Before 1971, paper or cloth money was backed by gold or silver. The dollars on the right are from 1923 and 1935, when some dollars were backed by silver. And the backing of silver went away in 1964, leaving us with modern bills. And these bills are simply fiat currency. There's no physical thing that they are representing. They just are worth something because we say they're worth something. And they are printed by one of 12 Federal Reserve banks, and that is coded onto modern money. B2 means that it is from the Boston Federal Reserve Bank. L12 means it is from San Francisco. You can actually see these seals on modern $1 bills. You can actually see the number and letter code along with the name of the city. If you look at higher denomination bills, you'll find that they only have the number and letter code. But if you know the code, you can see where the Federal Reserve banks issue and what bills you've come across in your life. The modern money is pretty simple. We have coins made from common metals. They're not very valuable. They're made by the U.S. Mint, and they're part of the Treasury. And we get all sorts of small denominations. It is possible to have up to a $1 coin in the United States today. Paper or cloth money does not have any value by itself, but it is also printed by the Treasury. It is distributed through Federal Reserve banks, and we have small and large denominations. And that is modern money. So we also have coins and paper money in the 1800s. But the coins were the only money produced by the government. There wasn't enough metal to show the true value of everything in the economy, so private banks were allowed to print paper money. But when a bank went out of business, then their paper money was worthless. This was not a great situation. The coins in the 1800s started at the half cent, and they go up from there. The half cent and the whole cent were made from copper by the U.S. Mint. All higher value coins were mostly silver, and that silver came from the depositor, a person or business that wanted coins made. The mint would accept the metal that was usually foreign coins that could be melted down and made into United States coins, or it could be some other form of silver or gold, like jewelry or raw metal. and the mint would then make the metal into US coins in the amount that the depositor chose. Most people and businesses didn't want lots of small value coins. So they would ask for their pressings and mints to be in larger values like the silver dollar or the half dollar. The 5-cent coin wasn't made from nickel until after the Civil War, and so it was not called a nickel at this time. So we had some low-value coins in the US, but not enough, which is why foreign coins were legal tender in the US until 1857. We also have high-value coins. High-value coins are made of gold and silver, and they were minted in Philadelphia until gold was discovered in North Carolina and Georgia in the 1830s. And new mints there opened to make gold coins, and New Orleans, Louisiana got a mint to handle all the foreign coins that they received, because that is the port where international trade happens in the southern cotton trade, and all the foreign companies and shippers who wanted to buy cotton from the South would pay with a whole bunch of foreign coin in New Orleans. And so the Louisiana Mint was established. Mexican silver coins were the most common silver coin until 1857, which was after the gold rush. And we stopped circulating foreign coins because we finally had enough gold and silver US coins. Why was there little money? Coins couldn't represent the value of everything because there wasn't enough metal that humans had found. Why wasn't there more money? There was not very much specie in the world until the 1850s. Look at the thin line on the edge of that graph. Humans had mined gold and silver for millennia before this, and it wasn't very much. We used it all for coins and jewelry. But as the population grew, we grew more food and raised more livestock and built more buildings and developed more land, all things that are worth money. But new gold and silver doesn't pop up automatically when you create something of value. So people had been using paper money to make up the difference. But that paper money system wasn't managed very well. State and local banks at the time issued their own paper money, not the federal government like today. The federal government would not issue paper money because it had been a huge mess after the Revolutionary War. Paper money was still seen as useful, but it was printed by banks themselves. So you had the Bank of Virginia and the Bank of Milford and the Friends of the Kalamazoo Railroad Bank issuing money for assets and things that they said that they owned. There's a lot more to this. You can see my video on the free banking era and the Panic of 1837 for details. But this system had problems. The problems with banking. It was unstable and had a reputation for making the rich richer. Half of banks founded between 1810 and 1820 had failed by 1825. Think about that. If half of all businesses that store your money fail, would you have them store your money? No way! It was a messed up system. And so the National Bank, that was the second bank of the United States, was scuttled by Andrew Jackson in 1836 because he didn't want the rich to keep getting richer. He wanted real specie or metal money, not faker paper money. With no national banks, then states were allowed to develop their own systems. Some states managed their system well. A few states had laws requiring between 10 and 33% of the paper notes to be backed up by specie, but not all did. That means you had paper money circulating that didn't have any real value or asset behind it. And many banks existed and each had their own paper notes, which meant that counterfeiting was easy and counterfeits were everywhere. So what are the solutions to these problems? Well, you stop counterfeits with banknote reporters. It's like a magazine that you subscribe to, and they describe all the bad notes and the failed banks, and you can use that to look up anything a customer gives you and see if it is legitimate. No national system means that transfers between banks are made with triplicate forms between banks. There's one form for yourself, one form for the originating bank, and one form for the receiving bank. And if all the forms match up, then the transaction is legitimate and everything goes through. If not, then the transaction does not happen. Unstable banks also means that moving money is a real business opportunity because it is not safe or reliable, so the people that are willing to take on that risk are going to make some money. And that is what American Express and Wells Fargo Express started out as, companies that would carry your money or belongings from one location to another. But California is really far away and part of Mexico. So in California, it was mostly barter and exchange. Before the gold rush, there were Native Americans and Spanish people in California. Then Mexicans. There wasn't much coin money in California, so the Native Americans traded carved shells with the Spanish. 1 yard of shells on a string was worth 1 Spanish dollar. The Spanish would then trade food and other farming and ranching goods to traveling ships. And those ships would then carry the goods to the rest of the world. And that's how the economy was working for the Spanish era. The farming and ranching goods were made by the Native Americans who were forced to work for the Spanish. But then there was a revolution, and after the Mexican Revolution, where the locals rebelled against Spain and said, "We are Mexico now," the cattle trade in California grew. And the Mexicans traded cattle hides and tallow with ships that would land on the coast and then travel to the rest of the world, and that powered the Alta California economy until the gold rush. Bartering kept the entire economy flowing. Account books were kept in dollar amounts, but actual trades were made in goods. So a person would have $40 worth of hides and trade for $40 worth of cloth or knives or kitchenwares or some other thing. The value was tracked in dollars, but no actual dollars were changing hands, no coins or paper money. The California banknote was a dried cowhide. Those hides went to Boston and other international ports where they were turned into leather goods, like shoes and handbags and jackets and all sorts of things. And those tanned hides were shipped by the tens of thousands per shipment. And barter powered the big business as well. John Sutter paid his Native American workers in stamped tin rounds, showing the number of days worked. And those tin rounds could be turned in by the workers at the store or the tannery or the blacksmith that were all on site at Sutter's Fort, and they could get goods from those services or businesses. The tin rounds were collected by the storekeeper and returned to Sutter to be reused. So the labor of the natives got Sutter wheat and cattle and other goods that he used to then pay merchants on the ships, and the goods from those ships then came from the ships to Sutter's vendors, and this cycle continued. And then the California gold rush happened, and we got lots of gold. How much gold? We don't have a good answer because no single group was counting. It is gold and it doesn't disappear, but some stayed in California, some went abroad to families, some went to the Philadelphia Mint, some went to the New Orleans Mint, some went to private assayers to make coins. We only have estimates. Most estimates are dollar values and state, like this graph, that mining peaked in 1852 with about $81 million found or mined that year, and the mining declined to about 45 million most years after that. mass measurements that aren't measuring the value but the actual mass of gold vary from 12 million ounces by 1853, according to a local geology department, up to 18 or 19 million ounces by 1855, or more than 19 million ounces by 1857. Depending on your source. The Sacramento Living History Project has some numbers. Marshall Gold Discovery State Historic Park has numbers. But they all vary and none are super accurate. The American Numismatic Association says there were $470 million mined through 1857, and that's measured in 1850 dollars. So where did the gold go? It started out as dust or flakes that the miners would get, and then they usually would trade it to local services or goods. You could buy food or get tools or gamble, etc., all with your gold flakes. And then those miners or the businesses that collected the gold dust would take it to an assayer who would turn the gold into coins. And the San Francisco Assay Office of the United States government opened in 1851, and private assayers had minted coins earlier, like this $5 piece. But the coins were then staying in California and used as normal money, but it could also be sent abroad. So they were used to purchase supplies locally, or to purchase land, or to invest in businesses, or they might go abroad with a miner or just through an express company to buy goods. You could send them back east and buy a whole bunch of clothes or guns or any sort of supply, but it would not go to a bank. The reason it could not go to a bank is banks are illegal. They are not allowed to exist according to the California Constitution of 1850. Banking's reputation was so bad that they were technically outlawed when they drew up laws for this brand new state. Businesses were allowed to hold money for you and lend out money by making loans and extend credit to customers and do basically everything that a modern bank does, but they were forbidden from doing the one thing that banks did in the 1850s, and that was print their own paper money. That was the main thing they were known for, and the Californians did not like it. It had thoroughly tanked the economy and gone awry and led to all the failures of those banks in the prior decades. So California said, no banks. And so famous businesses that we think of as financial businesses like Wells Fargo and American Express actually started out as express companies, but technically they were not banks at this time. They were just businesses that would hold your money for you and give it to other people if you wanted to earn a loan, and then give it back to you in another place if you needed it there. But in the 1850s, that was not considered a bank. Some gold went as coins or raw gold to international destinations like Mexico, France, Chile, and China, or any other country that had nationals here mining in California. Some of the coins that were minted include these pieces. The 1848 round on the bottom is one of the very first pieces of California gold, and the $50 octagon at the top was one of the early pressings, and it is the largest value gold ingot ever pressed. It's basically a coin that would circulate as $50, but it was not issued by the government, so it technically was not legal tender. It's just a bunch of gold with a stamp on it. But there were official gold and other coins issued, like these. And all that gold that was found led to many effects of the California gold rush. All the mining fueled agriculture and farming boomed because the population boomed. And when the population boomed, there is a giant market for goods. And all the people in this new market are relatively rich because they all are gold miners and they're walking around with pure gold in their pockets. And so other countries would import all sorts of food and clothes and cookware and hardware, and everything that you need to live would get to California. And so retail business boomed. And to get all those goods here, you needed some sort of transportation. And so the railroad across Panama was built and shipping increased. Eventually, the Transcontinental Railroad happened. There was a national road from St. Louis to Nevada that was established, and that is what the Pony Express ran on. And we had all of this business and investment and pure money, literally gold and metal, being pulled out of the earth, and that greatly expanded the money supply, which meant that banking could expand, and that allowed even more mining and agriculture and early industry and all sorts, because when you have banks and money, they're willing to use the money they do have to build up more businesses, because when more businesses exist, there's even more value in the economy. And it is a cycle. In review, we have lots of similarities and differences between modern money and gold rush currency. Modern money is issued by the Treasury, just like in the gold rush times. It is now distributed to local banks by the 12 Federal Reserve banks. Modern money has almost no value as metal or as cloth. It is a fiat currency that isn't backed by silver or gold. It's just valuable because we agree and say it's valuable. Modern money is only issued by the government nowadays, and it is accepted far and wide, unlike the gold rush times. In the gold rush times, they had real metal that was money. It was almost all valuable metal: copper, silver, sometimes gold. The coins were valuable everywhere, but coins are heavy, and when you get bunches of them, it's a whole lot of hassle. And so paper money existed, but because paper money isn't valuable by itself, it was only redeemable in a local area. Before trains, this was not a big deal because most people would only live and shop in their local area. But once trains came along, then people and their money could move much more easily. And so it was really important to change the system. The California economy had been based on cattle rearing before the gold rush, and that gold rush added hundreds of millions to the global economy, started one of the fastest growing economies in world history, and because of all that change, we got a whole bunch of advancement in the 1850s and 60s and 70s and the Gilded Era and all sorts of technology. Let's think about the meanings of all this and next level questions. We have electronic exchange now, where you don't even need to have cloth money to exchange. You can just send people money electronically. How do you think that system will change in the future? Does having money that is connected across the world make our system weaker because all the weaknesses are connected together? Or is it more stable because there's some balance between weak systems and stable systems? Leave us your thoughts below. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have learned about the past and that you can use this knowledge to make a better future.